I'm welcoming Lukas Sedlacek in Frequencies for Sanya. He's together with his wife, Johanna Sedlacek, a founder of a platform called Poetizer, where there is already 2.5 million poems there in 120 countries. It's a beautiful project, and we would like to know to tell us how it's all started and why.
Mm-hmm. Well, it all kind of started out of my love for poetry. I guess we all had, moments when we were very young, and then in high school, and we're like writing poems. So I was one of those many millions of people also trying to lure someone or express my heart or start dating someone by writing poetry. So that was one time. I also like kind of published my books or some of the poems in my printing machine, and kind of like had I guess like 20 copies that I made. So that felt as if I'm like publishing myself. And then I kind of left it. Life takes you in different directions. You have work and other issues to attend to, but yet like I got back to it. Like I think 5 or 6 years back, I was at one beautiful park, and I was writing just something that came upon my mind as a poem into my mobile, and then and at the same time I was kind of working on some project to foster creativity, and I was kind of thinking, what would entice people to be more creative. And as I came back home with that poem in my mobile, I kind of thought where to. First of all, I really enjoyed the experience. It's really creative because in poetry there are no limits. You can go totally off the grid. It doesn't have to rhyme, doesn't have to make sense even. You can use crazy words that don't, have any logic in it. So I really started enjoying it again as a grown-up, and thought that it's also a great tool for creativity because you really have no, limits, and it pushes you to express in the most exact way that you just can with words. And then I thought about where I should, where to put the poem. So logically, I tried Facebook, but friends and people don't expect like too much words on Facebook, and they kind of liked it, but didn't receive the thumbs up reaction. So I was wondering what else is out there where I could put my poem. And of course there's Instagram, but then I didn't want to make kind of like an image out of it and put a coffee mug on the poem and put a flower and like do the arrangements. Plus I didn't like that it's limited to certain frame that limits creativity and the use of and the number of words. So I made some research, found out there is like nothing on the market that I found that I could kind of like write poetry on. So I put together, some programmers and asked them to program the app, and it was more like just fun to see what's going to happen with it. And it started to have live on its own. So like people started to meet up and make friendship based on the platform. So I thought that's pretty cool. And then I thought about it like even more intense when I was with my now wife and then girlfriend, and I was visiting her in England for studies, and I kind of like thought about the platform with her, and seeing the traction it got and the interest of people, and thought about like how to is there a possible like need or demand from people that want to write poetry that we could fulfill, not just to be a platform, but to provide them other help on their way to publishing and writing poetry and like having kind of expression and out of it and having it as part of their lives. And then we found out there are all these problems once you want to start writing. Like you first don't feel that you are a poet, very few people, or a writer, very few people get bored with like thinking of themselves as being a poet or a writer or a sculptor or a photographer. So basically, how do you get feedback? How do you get motivation to write more? And once you want to dedicate more time to it, what is it out there that could help you with writing more? And we're putting together like all these different ideas that the platform could perform, and we found out that there is there is something that we could offer writers and in their way to make it very simple for them to dedicate themselves to writing, and then getting published and all the services and kind of like all these things that usually writers are left on their own to find out and burn and spend plenty of money while trying to be a writer or a poet. And by the time your partner, starts to dissuade you from thinking yourself of being a writer or a poet, because basically you just wasted, a few $1,000s from the family account, and your wife or husband is kind of wondering, so, how much money do you want to waste in your writer's career before you find out that you are not a writer? So we kind of find out there are all these barriers once you want to write, and we thought of a way how we could kind of get rid of the barriers and make it very simple. So that was the time when we thought once again about the platform, and kind of did also a total redesign of it, making it a platform which is the best possible platform for writing poetry, so that we want to listen to their needs. So it's very simplistic platform. It's for some people it's just too simple. There are very few colors. It's only about the word written, and we pretty much like the simplicity, and from that on we've been listening to poets and people who like poetry in growing it further. The great thing about it, and I will end my long answer to your short question very promptly, is that on the way we found out that it's really awesome to build something around poetry, because there are people that appreciate honesty. Which is very rare in these days in this world. We fake it till we make it, and that also pertains to social networks. In LinkedIn, you want to be perceived as the most successful person in the world. On Facebook, you got a perfect family. On Instagram, you got to look good, and it's kind of, we're all kind of pushed in a way, and we agree with it on being something different than we are. We are used to pretense, and pretense pays off on the social networks and in our lives. So as we're thinking about poetry and the platform and kind of rolling it out, we discovered that it's that the people that center around it appreciate honesty. So that's the place where you can get naked, like your heart your heart can get naked, your soul can get naked, and it's appreciated for being naked. And that's a part that I just love about it, because you can be yourself. You don't have to put on any mask. You can be anonymous with your name if you don't want to have your name put. And we have people sharing, happy stuff, but also depression and hard stuff. And what I'm most grateful about is that the users themselves appreciate the honesty among the users themselves, because we cannot, we are not the ones commenting on poems. We wouldn't be able to do it in the high amounts of poems created every day. But the users themselves are kind of valuing any attempt of other users to be sincere, and they kind of applaud them for that and don't tear them down or don't laugh at them or anything, which is very very nice as it happens. And it happens globally. It doesn't matter if you are what country you are from, what origin or which religion you are of, or which gender. People kind of get connected based on emotions. That's why it's also very simplistic network. Not much about the photos, the color you have, the ties you wear, but basically just about what you express as a human being.
Yeah, platform where the word is the most important thing. That's it. Yeah. No pictures, nothing.
There is a holy book that says at the beginning there was a word, and in a way words are that which helps us to grasp reality. Every language is different, and it also shows how we kind of want to magically understand and grasp the reality, which is impossible to put into words. And in poetry, people are trying the best they can to put words for for something that they see or what they feel, and it kind of helps also myself, but I guess to many others, and to kind of make sense more of the world, of their role in it, and of their emotions, kind of an attempt to kind of grasp it or comprehend it a bit more.
I guess that also it helps, especially during the COVID times and the lockdowns, where people can express themselves or connect through the poetry to words. There are studies that are also explaining and proving that it's against depression and a lot of good stuff.
We
And
that's like really another great part that we're seeing, and it wasn't like my first not intention. I didn't assume that poetry would have such a strong well-being effect on people, but it really does. Like we have like users writing to us, and especially during COVID times, like being very grateful for being able to express. And sometimes just like being heard out by someone who doesn't criticize you, but kind of tells you, hey, I was there too after breakup, or I know like lockdown is really sucks. I also don't enjoy it. It's normal to feel depressed. Just that kind of like, helps a lot. And it's just great that it's happening. And of course, COVID times were not easy, but we're happy that people felt kind of safe and secure to also be honest during those times.
They can feel safe on your platform to express themselves, not putting, without judgment, without anything. And the most users are usually like, it's because the base is in English. Now it's also in the Spanish, and it will be add more languages in the future. So the most users are from United States and Canada. And there's a lot of features that you're adding very soon. If you can tell us more about that.
Yes, definitely. We're like having like the highest user base in the States and Canada. We're very grateful for it, and it's those are countries that poetry is thriving. We could all witness inauguration of the new U.S. president, and the poem that accompanied it. So it's, I think, pretty strong also among the young people. And in Canada you have Rupi Kaur, it's a thing of like very young generation. In Europe, it tended to be historically more like the 19th century. Intellectuals and artists and Goethe would write poetry, and would just learn about it, in the schools as poetry, as some sort of art form. But it's changing a lot, and worldwide, but also in the States and Canada a lot. So that's been great, and we are in the process of introducing like lots of new functions. We kind of have to be careful because there are like so many possibilities, and I'm also crazy into all different ideas and also like future technology ideas such as blockchain and NFTs and everything. And it's very exciting to be able to create something new. But our focus has always been on poetry, and we kind of wanted to remain it so, to help people on their journey to becoming writers, and hopefully getting their trust to be their partner and kind of supporter for as many years to come. But one of the functions that we're going to introduce is intra-messaging, so the ability for people to write to each other. It's kind of funny because our users are like mix of introverts and extroverts, but poets tend to be introverts. So I thought this function would be something that all would be crazy about. But once we did some interviews with the introvert part, they were kind of very happy, like without the intra-messaging option, because they don't want to get too much connected, and
because they're expressing themselves through the poems. Communicate through the poems.
Exactly.
And then you have people that,
So like once we'll be introducing it, there will be an option that you don't have it, or people can't write to you, or you can block them. So we always kind of want to have that, safe space very clearly defined. We're also going to have like, AI and artificial intelligence kind of checking all the content for anything that seems suspicious, because it's like our utmost priority for the users to kind of like feel safe and only have what they like and what they enjoy. So we've been like discussing with our users for some time, and it's always the most important thing is not to project yourself into something of your creation because like, you know, you think that pink is great and you find out that users hate pink or you want blue, and it's always a mistake of the ego to presume the others are like you. So we don't want to create users according to our image, but ours, you know, create the platform according to their image. But intermeshing is going to be one of the options, like more control over like your comments, different things, that you can delete a comment or respond to a poem, and all these kind of things that users have been asking us to create. And part of that is like a desire to help people to get published and be their kind of partner in that part, because we have like a lot of users who just from starting to discover poetry on the platform already have like a few thousand people following them. They have like hundreds and hundreds of poems written on the platform, and they're kind of like thinking what should be the next step, and they're asking us, can you help us with getting published, and you know, what would be your advice in that process? So we want to focus on that also very soon.
Well, the community is growing together with the Poetizer and vice versa. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so how is the community of old school poets and teachers? You know, they were like attacking, you know, Instagram and Insta poetry in the beginning because they are assuming or concluding that it's almost impossible to connect poetry with social media today. But more and more people are accepting it and being part of it. So is it, do you feel that now it's a little bit better of the acceptance of the old school?
That's a very good point. That's a very good point. Like you know, my take on that issue is that it's just like the invention of paper. You know, some people had the need to censor the printing of books, that people can just like, you know, print whatever they want without the authority of the church or the learned man with the higher education. And it just means like this digital platform, internet, is also not unprofessional or professional. It just depends what you use it for. So I can understand some resistance of the older structures, or however we call them, against putting anything or poetry on the internet. But it's a means, you know, it's a way how you can, you know, it's just medium for your expression. So I think like gradually also thanks to Instagram, but not only, like posting something online has become less of an issue. It's very important to have it totally safe, so that, you know, that's something that we pay like very high attention to, because there were some sites in the States, and in the States they just stopped functioning. People lost all their, you know, photography or poetry. So that's like very important. At the same time, it's kind of like important for users to know, but by this time everyone knows that whatever you post, like, you know, online, someone can just, you know, copy paste and you know, do whatever with it. But it's important to retain like copyright ownership to the poems as it is possible in the digital world. So, you know, anything that, you know, would get published, or anything that's still like copyrighted to the users, and people should be kind of making sure that, you know, they have the copyright, and that like nobody's printing their books or whatever without their consent, because that's wrong. But otherwise, the medium is all fine. And I think like there are like numerous social networks out in the world. You know, TikTok, also very strong in the States and Canada, and Facebook and other ones. And it just depends kind of on what form of expression is the nearest to you. And what we kind of observe is that, you know, the more people are used to just video content, and the shorter the better TikTok, the more, especially millennials and younger generation than millennials, kind of are looking for ways to connect that are not that visually cluttered, and they are not all about, you know, ads on shoes and groceries, and more prefer places which kind of give you freedom and don't take advantage of you.
Mhm.
So that's our kind of approach to this issue. And with Poetizer, our aim is to kind of foster as much creativity in people. That's why it's also so minimal in its design, that you have blank page and it's all up to you. What do you do with it? We don't want to create a one-liner that kind of you fill in with the second line. It's something that also, like, from the start, we've been like positioning as like professional platform. We want to really help writers, so we don't want to have crazy ways of monetization, like plenty of other ideas have. In that regard, we want to be a professional, partner to the writers. That's also something, to let those critics who are afraid of poetry online, be content and be able to sleep. That it's not. It's more about what kind of content you want to have, than about something, as an artistic form being wrong on the internet, poetry or writing or whatever. But our desire is to, of course, like, pay as much homage and kind of respect to the profession as such. That's why we kind of don't want to have different photos under your poems and texts, and being it all visually about something else in poetry.
What is how far you want to go with the Poetizer? What is the plans for the future, especially when it will be no COVID-free world? Hopefully. Yeah. What are the plans for the future for the Poetizer? It's developing beautifully. People from all over the world are acknowledging and connecting through it. So. Is it kind of a support of the future writers there, or what are you planning in the future?
Yeah, well, we want to create like digital platform that helps anyone who wants to write from A to Z. Be really a partner to those who want to write, and make it easy for them. So that's our kind of goal. At the same time, we want to create a platform that is meaningful for people, where they can be, finding meanings for their lives, where they can express meaning, and where they can connect without being afraid of being judged. And the great thing about poetry, that's one of the reasons we're also looking at poetry, is that it's become kind of a voice of this generation, or calling against any injustice happening out in the world. Anyone who has a paper or internet can write poetry, and it's very short form of a communication. You don't have to be a writer writing a big, fat book about some societal issue, just like with Rupi Kaur, for example, and other writers, or writing about love. Atticus, for example, great poet, or about political issues, like we had Amanda Gorman in the States with the inauguration of Joe Biden. And not only in Canada and the US, but around the world, in India and other countries. It's an art form that kind of helps people to express, to connect, but also to voice some societal issues, like against injustices, be it gender, racial, work, or any other that they kind of see. And in that respect, poetry has become, in a way, similar to the Old Testament Bible prophets, calling against injustices, that the widows are unheard, the young generation, are not respecting their parents, and widows and poor people have nowhere to stay. So that's a very interesting thing about poetry, the kind of message it's taking on these days. Also at Joe Biden's inauguration, it was kind of a myth recreated, the city upon a hill myth that reverberates in the US politics for centuries, but kind of taken afresh by a 20-year-old and giving it a total new meaning, and and kind of being very, very strong in raising the issues that she felt should be addressed. So that's a very interesting thing that we observe with poetry, and the more it gives us meaning in what we're doing.
Who is your inspiration in the poetry world that you can mention at this point?
Yeah, of course he is Canadian. No, I mean I really loved Leonard Cohen. He's one of my favorite. I've been to his concerts once he was in Europe. So I also read his books, and his books, poetry books too. Book of Longing, that was fantastic too. I used to listen to his songs for like 20 years already. So I like him a lot, being a mix of kind of like a Zen Buddhist message slash with like erotic message, or just like very, very high and very low, if you will, but dancing together without having something considered to be high or low. So I kind of like his integration approach to two extremes, and not seeing them as extremes, but actually being one and the same. So Leonard Cohen definitely, and were he alive, and were it possible for him to write a poem on Poetizer that would make not my day or a week, but like my year, maybe my life, very very happy.
You finished political
science. And of course,
science.
besides like Leonard Cohen, the ones that I enjoy.
You do a lot of projects. You
enjoy reading
science.
A lot is also like.
But I was wondering if there is a poetry book maybe by Lukas Sedlacek one day, that it will be somewhere. Or there is no time. So many projects.
It would have too high expectations, and I'm like total. I would love to, but I'm like a perfectionist, and the more expectations there would be, that it would not be total rubbish. I would like have to feel very confident that I'm giving others to read something that I'm not totally ashamed of. And I also had always probably calling myself a poet, because by when do you become a poet? You write 5 poems, 100 poems, or you win national awards, or what? But the beautiful thing is that we can do whatever we want, and if someone likes what you wrote as a poem, and it's just one person in the whole world, then you are you are a poet for that one person. So that's also what we do in Poetizer. We don't kind of like cherry pick, this person is the best, this one is not a good poet. It's all up to people to decide. Whatever you like, that's fine. If you go for wine tasting and you have someone really good doing the wine tasting with you, he never tells you that this is a good wine, this is a bad wine, but she tells you, drink whatever you like. And if you're lucky enough to like the cheap wine and you find it tasteful, then you're like, good for you, because you will spend much less money on wine than myself buying all those fancy, very expensive wines, and I can't drink anything else. So it's like beauty is
everybody has a different
beauty
taste.
is in the eye of the beholder, as Oswald said.
The most important thing.
Everyone has a different taste. Someone loves, exactly. Plenty of it is centered about love. Atticus, we don't know his face till now, and it's just creating fascination not only among females around the world. And we don't change that much as human beings. We are more similar to our ancestors than we think, and poetry has been here like millennia ago, and is very likely to be with us also in the future. Let's hope few more thousand years.
True. Everybody is expressing themselves different ways, sometimes with music, through music, or through words, or through photography. There is so many ways how to, or making sculptures. So
and like you can write a poem and then it turns into a song classically, like Bob Dylan and others, or rap. It's pretty much poetry that is
true.
Put into music.
Well, thank you so much for giving that opportunity for the people from all over the world to reconnect or connect to that amazing platform. And thank you for explaining more about Poetizer, and good luck with all of your projects in the future.
you.